Boom. And we are rolling. What's up, everybody? I hope you're all having a fantastic Monday, November 27th. The Monday right after Thanksgiving holiday here in the U.S. So I hope everyone had a fantastic Thanksgiving. Good food, good family vibes. It's always, I think Thanksgiving is starting to become one of my favorite holidays, I have to admit. I was always a big Christmas guy. Christmas is always fun. It's always at the top of the list. But I don't know, man. Something about Thanksgiving this year was just, good vibes, good food, just laughs. And yeah, I think it's slowly becoming one of my faves. I feel like it's the one true holiday that we all kind of agree on, at least in America, in the U.S., that is like, I don't know, I guess it's the first holiday right after, a busy season of work and fall. So yeah, it's kind of like a nice introduction to the holiday season, and I fucking love it. I fucking love it. I can't get enough food, man. We always do multiple households here in my family. We always go to one house in the morning with one side of the family, and then another side of the family, in the afternoon. And it's just double the food, triple the food, man. So it's definitely hard to keep up with sometimes with the with all the food. And I was telling my girlfriend, like, oh my god, we're going to go with my family in the morning, and then right at noon we went with her family and ate again. So by like 2-3 p.m. I just wanted to take a nap. But yeah, overall it was pretty fun. Jumping into the MMA UFC world right into it, because we did get a lot of fights announced in the last couple of weeks, and I know I've been off. But yeah, by the way, if you are new here, thank you so much. I appreciate you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the content. It's mainly MMA, UFC related, and if you are coming back, well, thank you. I appreciate it, and thanks for being a recurring listener. That means a lot. But yeah, we had a lot of fight announcements in the last couple of weeks, pretty much all the way up till UFC 299. And then it didn't give us 300 yet, just yet, which I have my things to talk about UFC 300. So yeah, I'll talk about it here in a second. But we did get some good main events announced. We already knew Leon and Colby was going to happen this December to close out the year. That was going to be a fantastic fight. I can't wait. I'm also going to talk about that. Then we got Strickland versus Duplessis announced. Before that, we do get a fight night, which is Johnny Walker versus Magomed Ankalaev. Good fight. I mean, the last one, it was, ended up the way it ended up. It was unfortunate, but I didn't think it was fair for Johnny Walker. I think it was a confusion of the ref and language barrier, and I think it was just unfortunate, but I don't think it counted against his record. I think they, I guess neither of their records, I think they put it like a, how do they call it, like just couldn't be finished or something like that. But yeah, the rematch should be interesting, I hope. I mean, sometimes when that happens, like after the Ankalaev and John Blachowicz fight, everyone was like, even Dana was like, we don't really want to see that again. So I'm surprised that they did this rematch right away. It kind of shows you that maybe they're hoping one of these guys gets a contender soon, because they're kind of running out of contenders in that division, right? We have Pereira, who just already beat John Blachowicz and Judy Prohaska. And then, obviously Glover Teixeira retired. Jamal Hill is still injured. He might come back. So I think they said, all right, let's give these two dudes another attempt, so that, we can have a real contender. Because, I don't know, after these guys, after these two and the rest I just mentioned, I don't see anyone else in the light heavy that has a real title shot. Really, really don't. I mean, the only one was Jiri, because he was a former. He already got beat. Blachowicz is always in that, or Blachowicz, or Jan Blachowicz is always in that conversation, but he is fighting already. I think he's fighting in February or something like that. But he also got beat already by Pereira. So, I think that's why they did this fight. That's why they rushed this fight right away, because they said, well, let's find out really who is the best. We didn't really get a taste of it. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a good fight. I hope it's a good fight. So I'm excited for that. But, yeah, then after that, in January 20th, we have Strickland versus Draco Duplessis DDP. That is a good fight, man. That's a good fight because obviously we have Strickland, who everyone is on his high nuts right now. I mean, for sure the guy is an absolute savage, but obviously he did the unthinkable by beating Israel Adesanya. And yeah, he is on a hype train right now. That if he's able to harness it and do it right and beat DDP, I think he gets obviously bigger and bigger. He's already huge after the Izzy fight, but some people still accredit that to Izzy not having a good night. Even though I thought personally that it was a combination of both. It was a combination of Strickland just being an amazing striker, really, and having amazing defense. And then Izzy also having a night off because Izzy just didn't move at all, right? Again, I'm not taking anything away from Strickland. He fair and square defeated the champion and became champion. And it sucks, by the way, that his first title defense is going to be in Canada. Bro, he is Mr. USA. How the fuck are you going to have his very first title defense in Canada, bro? If I'm the UFC, lead matchmaking / marketing, I say, hey, bro, to harness this guy's popularity, have him fight here in the U.S., specifically maybe somewhere like where his demographics would hit, kind of like the Midwest, places like that. I think that's his really demographic. I mean, that's not a bad thing. I'm from the Midwest, and I absolutely love Sean Strickland. So, just in the U.S., maybe somewhere in the East Coast or maybe somewhere in the Midwest would have been great. Or even Vegas. I mean, why not? I think he is from Vegas, so why not have him fight at his hometown for his first title defense against that guy from South Africa? It doesn't really make more sense to make it in Canada. I don't think they looked at it that way, though. I think they just said, hey, we have to put a good main event in Canada, in Toronto, once a year. So let's give him this too. It doesn't really matter where they're from. This is one that they don't really care. Like, oh, this guy's from here, this guy's from here. Because you see it sometimes. They try to match cities and venues with certain athletes, right? But yeah, this one, it feels like they didn't really care about that. They just said, well, we just want to fulfill a UFC 297 in Toronto. What's a good fight with good timing? This makes sense. I'm not mad about it. I like the matchup. I don't know. It's a tough one. It's a tough one to call. I'm gonna definitely talk about it more in depth. But I Strickland obviously looked fantastic against Izzy. But then if you look at DDP versus Robert Whittaker, who was pretty much the only guy before Strickland and before Pereira to kind of give Izzy trouble, right? Izzy fought the who's who of the division, and he steamrolled through all of them, right? It wasn't until he faced, not the first fight, but the second fight against Robert Whittaker is when we said, okay, this was a close fight, maybe closer than Izzy would have liked. The first fight ended in a knockout, so it doesn't matter. But up until that point, I was like, okay, I think Whittaker, everyone tried, Vittori tried, a bunch of people tried, and they all failed. So I feel like Whittaker is, Paulo Costa, everyone. Whittaker is, at that point at least, he was the only one that could defeat Izzy. That's what it seemed like. Then obviously Pereira came along, then obviously Strickland defeated Izzy, and then DDP defeated Whittaker. So this is a very interesting matchup because we're getting at a really high level now, right? Like, if you would have taken me a couple years back and said, all right, Izzy just defeated Whittaker, he knocked him out, and Izzy just defeated Paulo Costa, right? He also knocked him out. And then you get Whittaker versus Costa. The fight wouldn't really interest you as much. It's still a high level fight. Probably not a main event. Obviously, there's no championship involved. But, a good maybe co-main would have been, or maybe like, a little bit lower on the main event, but it wouldn't interest as much, right? But now that the story of the division kind of built up, we had Izzy who went through this trouble, came back and then lost, and then we have DDP who everyone, including myself, thought Whittaker was going to just, piece him up and destroy him because Whittaker just looked so good against Izzy, the second fight. So, the timing was perfect where, like, these guys built each other up. They had amazing performances recently, and now they're fighting, right? Good timing, too, that Izzy's kind of taking a break. Obviously, I think there was talks of him doing a rematch right away, but I think, he later came out and said he wasn't, and then he later came out and said he was going to take a break. So the fact that these two are fighting, it's an interesting fight. It's a really interesting fight. It's hard to see. I'm getting a phone call. It's hard to see who is going to win. I mean, if I had to bet, I'll probably put my money on Strickland by decision, kind of the same way he beat Izzy, right? Just being patient, just good defense, good strikes, good combinations, being the aggressor, being the first one to engage and the last one to engage in any interaction, right? So throw the first punch in a little sequence, and be the last one to throw a punch in a sequence. And obviously try to go for the kill. Obviously, he almost put Izzy away, right? So I don't see why he couldn't do that with DDP, who I don't think has that much good of a defense, at least not as good as Izzy. Izzy on a good day, I should say. But DDP, like I said, did show some really good promises against Whitaker, right? He showed that his style is not easy to prepare for. So Whitaker couldn't really, bring guys in the gym to mimic DDP's style and couldn't really train for his style. He has a very awkward fighting style. It's not very traditional the way he moves and the way he fights, but a good striker. And yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting fight. If I had to put my money on it, though, I'll probably put it on Strickland. I'll talk about more when this fight, when it gets closer, when the New Year's happens. It's in January 20th, so usually fight week, I'll make a whole video dedicated just to that. Then we have a fight night. Then we have UFC 298, Volk versus Topuria. That's a really interesting fight, and I'll tell you why. Any other day, actually not any other day. When did he fought Islam? God damn it. So Volk fought Islam on UFC 294. He got knocked out, obviously, head kick. If you would have asked me before this fight, who's going to win, this upcoming fight, Volk versus Topuria, I would have told you that Volk was going to steamroll Topuria because that's just the way he has been looking in the past couple of years, really. He's been looking absolutely dominant and, an absolute savage. And every time he fights, he gets better. I don't know how, but it seems like every time he steps into that octagon, he just has something more to add to his resume, to his fighting style. And, before the Islam fight, if you would have asked me, I would have said, oh, Volk is going to steamroll Topuria all day, every day. After that, though, you get knocked out, and then you take a fight, 4 months after you get knocked out? I don't know. That doesn't give me the confidence to say, okay, Volk is going to absolutely steamroll Topuria, right? But that's what I'm saying. If you would ask me this 6 months ago or a year ago, absolutely, Volk will take my money all day, every day. But you got to ask yourself, where is Volk right now, mentally and physically? Like, obviously, he suffered that concussion. He got knocked out with a head kick. Did he have enough time to recover? Is he back to 100%? Is he going to get in there and kind of be nervous? We saw what happened with Leon versus Kamaru. When Kamaru got head kicked and then had the rematch, the next fight, he didn't want to engage as much because obviously he didn't want to get caught. Because it is what happened when you get caught. It kind of gives you this PTSD, this built-in PTSD of like, oh shit, I might get caught. I'm not going to fully commit to being aggressive because I might get caught again, and I can't afford, especially at this level. Volk cannot afford to get head kicked again or get caught with anything. Again, that would be horrible to lose the opportunity of the lightweight champ, and then right after, which by the way, it was a short notice. I didn't like that at all. I think as a champion, you're not really supposed to take short notice fights. I mean, that's why you're the champion. Mind you, he was the challenger in that, but he still has the belt at featherweight. So I don't know. I just don't see why he needed to. I mean, thank you for giving us an amazing event, even though it was short, for saving the card, I guess I should say. But I just don't agree with it. I think he should have taken that approach more carefully because I don't know if he's going to get that opportunity again. Not while Islam is champ. While Islam is champ, I don't think Volk is going to get an opportunity at lightweight Again, I think I said light heavyweight earlier. Maybe, I don't know. But this is going to be an interesting fight because, like I said, now after the Islam fight, I'm scared. I'm scared for Volk. I think Volk is not going to be 100%, and I think Topuria has an amazing skill set that if Volk makes one mistake, or Volk, you know, just doesn't know what to do in there, it could be trouble. It could be trouble. I was a huge fan of Bryce Mitchell. I still am a huge fan, but I always thought Bryce Mitchell was really good, up and coming, probably future champ. And then he met this dude, this Topuria dude. I think he's from Spain, and got absolutely steamrolled. So, it's UFC math does not work all the time. If Bryce Mitchell would have fought, I think obviously Volk would win, at least now. But you got to ask yourself, is this the end of an era for Volk? Is this his downhill? I'm not saying I want that to happen. I'm a huge Volk fan, and I hope he continues to fight and be dominant. But this is when it goes downhill. When you've peaked and we say, how the fuck is this guy peaking? You can only peak so much. Look what happened to Izzy, right? I mean, it happens to all the champs, except John Jones, really. It happens to all of them. You peak, look what happened to Usman. You peak, and then you have that one fight that you get knocked out. Izzy got knocked out, Usman got knocked out, Anderson Silva got knocked out, and then from there it's downhill. And it happens, and I hate to see it happen to someone in Volk that just looks so invincible. Volk looks like he was going to be fighting for 100 years, and no one was going to be able to stop him. But, you have this event, and now it's a different story. Now it's a different story, and that's what's crazy about this game, man. You can have one fight that could completely change your life. Look what happened to Dominic Reyes versus John Jones. Dominic Reyes was a young guy, up and coming dude, got a title shot, nearly won that fight, not gonna lie, but he got beat up. That was a hard war. Both of them got beat the fuck up. Ever since that fight, he hasn't been the same. He's been on a loss, and after loss, after loss, after loss. So I gotta wonder, and I gotta hope, please, I hope this does not happen to Volk. I hope that he's good from the head kick, that he has no brain damage. I hope that he's not nervous and got PTSD to be in there. And if you do, man, it's all good. It's part of being human. I'm not saying, oh, you should be made out of steel and not have any PTSD and not be scared. No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying that it could happen to the best, the absolute best. And we've seen it. And I don't want this to happen to Volk, but I guess we're going to find out on February 17, UFC 298. We're going to find out what is going on in Volk's head, right? If he goes out there and steamrolls Topuria, he's back. He's back like he never left. Lightweight was just a bad dream, bad nightmare. Featherweight, things at featherweight are just business as usual, right? But if he comes out and maybe, I hope he doesn't get knocked out. If it is a downfall, if it is a downhill from now, I hope it's slowly but slowly. I hope he maybe doesn't get knocked out again. I hope he maybe, let's say he doesn't look as dominant in this fight, but he still manages to pull the win. But people are like, I don't know, he looked a little weird. Maybe it was a split decision, shit like that. And then after that, maybe he has a couple more bad fights, and downhill. If it's going to happen, I hope it happens that way. I hope he doesn't get knocked out again. But again, I'll talk about that fight as well when it comes to the time for it. And then after that, we have 299, which is O'Malley versus Chito Vera. Fantastic fight. Obviously, a rematch. O'Malley claiming he never lost the fight before, but he lost against Chito Vera. It was a weird one because he didn't really get knocked out or anything. He, for what he claims, he hit his nerve, and that really completely took his leg off of the equation, so he couldn't even step on his leg. And which is what prompted him to step back and just his leg being gone, fall down, and Chito goes in for the kill. I think I see it. Obviously, I think we all agree with that. We all agree that this was not an instance of Chito dominating or knocking out, O'Malley. So I'm glad they're doing this rematch, and it was definitely a thing that I myself saw coming a while ago. I always knew this was going to happen. especially once O'Malley became champion. I didn't know it was going to be his first title defense. But unfortunately, there are a lot of injuries in the division. I think, what's his name? I think Cody. I think Fiziev is injured, right? And then obviously he just defeated. Which, by the way, I thought it was kind of messed up that they didn't give Aljo an immediate rematch. Usually, if a guy has a couple of title defenses, they kind of give him a rematch. But I don't know. I feel like the UFC doesn't really care about Aljo, and this sounds fucked up, but I feel like the guy's not that marketable. And I'm a big fan. He's a great fighter, and that's the way I look at fighters a lot of times. I don't look at their fame, I look at their skill set, and that's how I base at least my opinion, right, on the guys. And Aljo, skill set wise, fantastic, right, one of the best in the world. But to go and lose against a guy that couldn't really wrestle, and then to try to stand with him and just have a completely horrible defense, and then just not use your best skill set, which is wrestling and grappling. He later O'Malley admitted that he couldn't wrestle at all in his camp because he was injured. Obviously, Aljo didn't know that, but why not use the wrestling at all? You know it's your best tool. If I'm a UFC fighter and I'm the best at something, I'm using that. Obviously, there's been instances where wrestlers and grapplers, they kind of fall in love with striking and they're successful at it. That's great. That means you're a well-rounded fighter, and that's fantastic. And I'm not saying Aljo doesn't have good striking. He has decent striking, but I think he for sure surpasses a lot of that division on grappling. And I feel like he didn't really use it as much, well, at all. He didn't use it at all in this fight. So obviously he's out of the equation, but I'm just a little weirded out that they didn't give him a rematch. But, like I said, not that much of a marketable guy. He gets a lot of hate for whatever reason. I like the guy. But Cody Sanhagen was out of the equation too because he was injured. So we had Chito Vera left, which I'm not mad about this matchup, honestly. I think I'm a huge Chito Vera fan. He's an amazing dude, amazing fighter, amazing person. I watch a bunch of his interviews, podcasts. He's a super cool dude. It's going to be interesting to see, man, because Chito was going on a little bit of a tear there for a little bit, and then he had a rough night against Corey Sanhagen. I forget, there was one more I think that he was a little rough, but he was going through an absolute tear, bro, knocking people's out. I think he knocked the fuck out of Dominic Cruz. So it's interesting to see which version of Chito Vera we get, and I've talked about this before in this episode about how it's a lot. Sometimes it's the mental. It's like when you get into a fight, when fight day gets there, how are you doing mentally, right? And I feel like if Chito Vera is one of those dudes that his record his head is just on the right spot, he will perform and he will beat most of the division, right? He's definitely a top 3 dude, that's for sure. So he defeated Munoz, but that was a close decision too. It wasn't like nothing impressive. Then he lost. Before that, he lost against Sanhagen. That's the one thing that I would like Sanhagen to get this title shot first, just because he defeated Chito. But obviously he's out injured, unfortunately. Before that, Dominic Cruz. He defeated Dominic Cruz. I think he knocked him out really, really horrible and pretty much retired Dominic Cruz. So. Yeah, if we get a version of Chito like the Dominic Cruz version, it's going to be a really interesting fight. Really interesting fight. Both amazing strikers. I don't know, man. I got to give it to Chito on this one. I might get a lot of hate. I'm a huge O'Malley fan as well. He's a fantastic striker. I think he got a little bit cocky after he got the belt, but hey, get cocky, man. You're the champion, you're right? You deserve it. You deserve to get cocky. And he's always been a character, obviously, but he's got skills. If you're a character and you're cocky and you absolutely suck and you go and get knocked out, shame on you, bro. But that's not the case with Sean. He has answered everyone's questions that he is a true champion and he belongs there. He could be a potential next Conor. Conor kind of blew up more earlier in his career, and obviously Sean is massive, but I don't think he's at a level of Conor. At least at where they're at. Because where Conor became champion, he was the biggest athlete, I think, the most famous athlete. in the whole MMA, in whole fighting, boxing, MMA, anything. I don't think Sean is there, obviously, and he already became champion. Very similar paths, though, right? Including a title shot, right? Very similar circumstances. But I don't think he's there just yet. Who knows if he's gonna get there? The kid's got obviously talent. If he defeats Chito Vera, obviously that's your stock goes up a little bit more, and he'll finally be able to claim that that first one was a fluke. I didn't really just get injured, and I didn't really get hurt. I wasn't out or anything. So we're gonna be also getting some questions answered, but I gotta give it to Chito Vera on this one, man. I think Chito Vera is one of those guys that deserves deserves a greatness just based out of his story, where he's from, his work ethic, how he is outside of the octagon too. He's one of those guys that just deserves greatness, deserves the attention, deserves the title. I'm not saying that Sean doesn't, but Sean's used to this. Sean has been a superstar for years now, way before he's been champion, right? Let my boy Chito have a shot. And then that will build up an amazing storyline, because if you lose to Chito, we could have a trilogy, bro. Even though you'll be 0-2, I think you're the champion, and I think they would give you a rematch, trilogy rematch. But yeah, I've always said it. I've loved to see Sean O'Malley against some other of these top contenders, like Fiziev, like Corey Sandhagen. I think that fight is going to be one of the best bantamweight fights, at least of the last decade. If Sean O'Malley and Corey Sandhagen fight, it's going to be a striking masterclass. This was going to be super interesting too, because again, both really good strikers. But again, it just goes back to what version of Marlon are we going to get, bro? Like I said, when he's focused and when he's there, when his head's there, he's 100%. And I was watching one of Sean's podcasts. Well, I didn't watch the whole podcast, but I watched a clip. They were talking about psychedelics, him and his trainer, Tim Welch. They were talking about psychedelics, and, they were asking Sean if he uses those before fights or anything or in camps. And he said not really. And then they pointed out to Chito mentioning that he does. And they kind of, obviously they're a little bit biased, but they were saying how when he started talking about this psychedelics and stuff like that, that's when he started doing worse at fighting. So it's interesting. I know that for some people it works, for some people it doesn't. It's, if that's what Chito wants to do, by all means, go ahead and do it. But if it's going to affect your ability to perform, do you really want to be doing those stuff before a championship fight, right? I mean, if it works for you, great. And then I watched another episode. I watched the Raw Talk with Bradley Martin and with Chito Vera. He was talking to Blood openly about that shit, how he takes mushrooms, he smokes weed during camp. A few caveats, though. It's not like he's, fucked up training or whatever. I think he does a little bit of mushrooms before sparring or something like that, and then he only smokes weed after the training or something like that. So it's not like he's, going to train fucked up and, all fucking delusional and shit. So it's not that. So I don't think it's that bad. I think, a little bit of shrooms, a little bit of weed might, kind of boost you up a little bit. Everyone's got their own opinions when it comes to that, but, it might not be a terrible thing, especially if it kind of helps him with mindset stuff. That's a big one. Help him clear some of his mind and stuff like that. Should be a good fight, though. Should be a good fight. Again, I would love to see Chito win. And I think that's going to be my prediction. I think if I'm going to bet money in the fight, I'll bet it on Chito. By knockout, though, I don't know. Sean's never been finished. Not like that, at least, So it could be a decision. This could be a split. I see definitely this one could be a split. Both guys have amazing output. Amazing cardio. I think that's not going to be a factor. Well, we haven't really seen, actually, any of them in 5-round fights. That's the main thing here. So, actually, maybe Chito wasn't a last... I think his fight against Dominic could have been a 5-round. No, yeah, it was a 5-round fight. Oh, so was the one with Sandhagen. So, Chito has a couple of more experience when it comes to 5-round fights. That's a good advantage. That's a weird advantage to have against the champion. I feel like the champion is usually one that has the experience with the 5-round fights. But in this case, O'Malley hasn't had a main event fight and hasn't had, before the championship, and hasn't had a 5-round fight. Obviously, the one versus Aljo was scheduled for 5 rounds, but it lasted 2, so it doesn't count. The one against John was 3 rounds. Munoz was 3 rounds, but it only lasted 2. Um, so it's weird in this instance where the contender has the 5-round experience. That's a really interesting thing to see here, right? The champion doesn't have that, but the contender does. Now, I don't know how Cheeto's cardio is going to be in the 4th and 5th round. I'm assuming it's going to be okay, considering he's had a couple of those. And, probably O'Malley, his whole camp for the Aljo, he trained for 5 rounds, probably, even though he was injured. So I'm not saying he's going to be absolutely gassed out, but Cheeto should have a slight advantage there. And I don't know. I haven't seen O'Malley fully gassed out. I don't know. I mean, he looked really good against John. That's the one fight that I can think of that kind of went the distance and kind of one of his most challenging fights. The one, not a fight that he just easily put the guy away. He didn't really look gassed out. Actually, yeah, he did look a little tired in the third round. A little bit slower, but I mean, that's to be expected. Usually guys are pretty good at somehow, some way finding a second breath of air in the championship rounds, especially if you have that mentality and you got that dog in you. Usually, you're able to find a second win and just kind of go at it. But at the end of the third round against Peter Yan, he looked a little gassed. I don't know how he's going to look against Marlon. I don't know how Marlon's going to look. So yeah, but again, Marlon with the slight advantage of the distance there. So yeah, that's all the way up to 299. Now we have UFC 300 for April, which hasn't been announced, but I got some predictions. We have one fighter who was teasing us, so that was Dustin Poirier. I think he tweeted or he posted something on Instagram about coming back and then hashtag 300 or something like that. Hashtag UFC 300. So maybe Poirier's booked. I don't think Poirier will be booked for a main event, though. I just don't see who he could fight on a main event. I mean, Conor, he could fight Conor. I could see him, though, being the co-main event, however. Against who? I don't know, bro. I mean, is Conor going to fight Chandler, or will they make the Conor and Poirier, 4th fight? Or I don't know, bro. Is it going to be... I'm hoping my prediction for the main event, or at least the co-main, will be Islam versus Charles. Because assuming Charles recovers, I think he's injured. But yeah, I think that should be enough time to recover. But the way I'm looking at it is, okay, guys that just fought not too long ago. So obviously not someone like, it won't be any of the guys that fight here in the fights that we just mentioned. So it won't be Sean, it won't be Strickland, it won't be Volkanovski. It won't be any of those guys, right? Big names, it won't be them. Probably won't be Izzy because he's taking a break. Although he could come back in UFC 300. So, that's good if you want to take a good break. I mean, he fought last, like in October or September. So that could be a good break. That was that like 6, 7, 8 months. That's not bad. I mean, how much of a length do you want? You want a year, 2 years, Izzy could come back, maybe not. But then look at the guys that have fought not too long ago that will be ready potentially in April, right? You have Islam Makhachev. You have Charles Oliveira, who was training, unfortunately got injured, but, he still has some of that camp conditioning, hopefully, and then something if the injury is able to heal before somewhat like March, not probably late January, early February, maybe he could make it. You had people like Hamzat, big names. I'm thinking of big names. Pereira, maybe not. He just fought, but he could fight again. He just, he didn't take a lot of damage in the fight, so he could be there. Again, just thinking of big names. Just throwing some names out there. Conor and Chandler would be the main event if I'm being biased. Charles Oliveira and Islam Makhachev could be the co-main event, and Dustin Poirier could be one below that. His opponent, though, who would he fight? And would it be a lightweight, or would it be, at welterweight. I just don't know. I mean, not Gagey. Dariush is fighting this weekend. Maybe Dariush if he's available. God damn, shut the fuck up. Um, no, that Hooker's hooked as well. Um, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see who they chose for that. Sorry, guys, I gotta do this real quick. Oh, computer update. God damn it. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, he could fight someone at welterweight. I don't think he's gonna at all go back down to featherweight. I don't know. Who is Poirier gonna fight? He's the one that we have confirmed, so he's the one that we have to kind of like grasp and try to fantasize there. But I don't see it. You know, I would like for 300 to be that. At least I have that. Let me give my prediction for the main and the co-main, which I said it already. It's main would be Conor McGregor versus Chandler, and co-main would be Charles Oliveira versus Makhachev. And then someone like DP or like a Gagey or a Kamsad, could be below on the lower card. So, excited for that. Like I said, they might announce that before the end of the year. I hope they do. Maybe after the Covington fight. Should be interesting to see. Yeah, we'll see what's up with that. Anyways, we do have a good fight night coming up, actually. I know a lot of casuals and a lot of people that like to say they watch UFC. They don't watch a lot of the fight nights because it doesn't have usually big names and stuff like that. But they're fantastic matchups, man. If you really, really want to get into the core of the UFC, you have to watch the fight nights. I'm guilty myself. I don't watch all the fight nights. But I do try to watch fight nights like this. This one is definitely a sleeper, bro. Big names, good matchups, names that all of you might have heard before, names that have fought bigger names, so really well-known people. So we have Beneil Dariush, who just lost against Charles Oliveira, but, fantastic fighter. Absolutely destroyed everyone. But, once he got to Charles, it was, night-night. He's fighting Armand Tsarukian, number 4 versus number 8. So it should be a good fight. I don't think this is like a contender fight or anything like that. I think this is going to be a fight to put them in the top 5. Daniel is already top 4, so he's pretty much fighting, I guess, for his top 5 spot, right? That's what they're doing with Arman, trying to bring some new blood in. Ranked number 8, top 10, so he must be really fucking good. I haven't watched him, unfortunately, fight a lot. That's a lightweight. Then we have Jalen Turner versus Bobby Green. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a sleeper fight. It's a sleeper fight. I'm telling you, they just get better. They just get better. We have Rob Font versus Davison Figueiredo. Former flyweight champ, Davison Figueiredo, fighting not the main, not the co-main of a fight night. That is crazy to me. But it should be a really interesting fight because he's ranked number 2. Rob Font is now number 8. And I forgot to mention the last fight, Jalen Turner is ranked number 12, and Bobby Green is 13. So right there's not a lot of stake. It's 12, 13, might go up 1, might move back 1. It's not that big of a stake. But this one, Rob Font versus Davison Figueiredo, when you have a top 10 guy going against a top 3 guy, that is telling you right now that they're opening him up. They're opening him up for a future title fight, right? There may be the UFC see something on this guy in Rob Font that he will probably beat Davison. And if he does, he's in the top 2, baby, because Davison, man, it doesn't always work that way, but Davison's top 2. So if he does finish Davison, he's right there for a title shot. He would be considered for a title shot. But yeah. Man, this is a sleeper fight, bro. This is a sleeper fight card, I should say. 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, ESPN and ESPN Plus. UFC, give me my cut. Beneil Dariush, bro, he's been, like I said, he had a tear. His record is amazing, right up until the point that he fought Charles Oliveira. He defeated Gamrot. He defeated Ferguson before that. So he's definitely had some good fights. He's one of those guys that he's not new. He's a well-seasoned veteran in the UFC. He's been around for the longest. Well-rounded. Fantastic jiu-jitsu and fantastic striking. So it should be a good fight, man. It should be a really good fight. Another fighter I'm excited about is Bobby Green. I'm a huge Bobby Green fan. I think he's a super cool and genuine guy. I think he missed out on some opportunities. Obviously, we can't really say miss out if he lost against such a fucking beast like Makhachev. And then he lost another fight after that. Oh no, he defeated Dawson. He defeated Ferguson. Oh, so he also defeated Ferguson. Okay. And then versus Gordon, it was could not continue. And yeah, before that we had the Islam fight, but that one's whatever. But it should be a good fight. He's in a weird position where is he on a title in a championship run? I feel like he's one of those guys. Jalen is definitely in a title run. Jalen is definitely in the come up, riding a wave. He's in the come up. Bobby Green is more like in the middle where we don't know if it's, he's a little bit more vet as well, but we don't know if he's going up and down. He's in a weird slippery slope. He's got a couple wins though on his record in the last few fights, so hopefully he can keep that winning streak on. And I hope that they give him another shot at a top 3 or even a championship. I think that would be a good opportunity for him. So definitely interesting. And the rest of the prelims are okay. Not a lot of big names. But the main card, especially the top 3, top 4 fights, they're good, bro. I'm definitely going to be tuning in. Definitely going to be watching. And definitely going to be here to talk about him next week, and as well as the Covington and Leon Edwards fight. So tune in. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you all. Again, remember to hit that like, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell. Leave a comment, man. Tell me how you feel. I tell you this, guys, all the time after a video. Tell me how you feel. Am I making sense? Am I completely nuts in the shit that I'm saying? Am I just completely going on an absolute fucking fantasy land here? Or am I actually making sense? I would like to know. I would like your feedback. Constructive feedback. Please don't be an asshole. But yeah, thank you guys. Hope you have a good rest of your week. Again, happy start of your holiday season. And peace and love, baby. See ya.